All right. Welcome to the HawgBeat Hoops post-game show. I am JC Hoops, Jackson Collier. It is just me right now. Uh, I will have my co-hosts Riley and Mason coming up shortly. They are live on scene, but because of the the big win, the court storming, and the massive amount of fans that were in Bud Walton Arena tonight, they don't have good internet connections. So it is just me right now doing a raw live reaction, taking y'all's questions as they come in. Feel free as soon as you have any questions to put them in the chat if you're on YouTube, Twitter, wherever you're watching, and I will get to them as soon as possible. But I guess right now, my initial reaction, wow. Arkansas played a fantastic game tonight. There were plenty of things to be concerned about coming into tonight's game. One of them, one of the biggest concerns tonight, being the assist rate. Arkansas was not passing the ball at all, not moving the ball at all offensively. But tonight, they were assisting a lot, moving the ball a lot. Spacing was a lot better. Actually finished with 17 assists on 26 made field goals. Was much better than they have been so far this season. I thought the defense as a whole was a lot better. Contesting perimeter jump shots, were really forcing Duke into some tough situations, forcing some steals, grabbing defensive rebounds. There were a ton of things that Arkansas did well tonight. Absolutely, just a great performance. It's one of those things where you look at Arkansas basketball, you look at Eric Musselman, and I'll admit I've been very critical this season, very critical, and frankly, I think it was pretty. I guess I'll say well deserved. Arkansas had not played well up until tonight, but get Eric Musselman frustrated, get him angry at the performance from his team. You get him watching however many hours of film, 14 plus hours of film, diagnosing all the issues himself, trying to correct mistakes himself. And you get a performance like tonight where Arkansas beats the number 7 ranked team in the country. They came into Bud Walton Arena, obviously. It was the first time Duke has ever come and played in Bud Walton Arena. I get it. And home court advantage, I get it. But the fact is, Arkansas took it to the number 7 ranked team in the country, and could have / should have won by even more than they did tonight, especially with how the second half kind of went down, some turnovers late, struggles breaking the press, all that sort of stuff. But Eric Musselman came up with a master game plan. The team executed it. And by the way, Arkansas did all of this without its leading scorer in Tremont Mark. And Tremont Mark is much more than just a scorer. He's really good on the defensive end. He's a good leader and all that sort of stuff. So Arkansas went without one of its best players, if not its best player, and really just took it to the number 7 team in the country. Uh, it's one of those performances. I don't know how much else you can ask out of this Arkansas team. They shot the ball well from the perimeter. They moved the ball well. I mean, you look at the Arkansas stats. This is the unofficial box score. Okay, so it's not official yet, but this is the unofficial box score. Arkansas was 41% from from behind the 3-point line. They were 49% from the field. One of the only issues I had tonight, they got to the free throw line a ton, but they only made 19. They were 19 out of 30 from the free throw line. That's 63%. So far this season, Arkansas has been really good from the free throw line. Has been above 70%. They've been around like 70.8 to 71% from the free throw line. Tonight was not that same level. Pretty low from the free throw line. Don't know what the discrepancy was, why it was so much lower, because you had the guys you wanted shooting free throws tonight. Trevor Brazile was 3 of 6. That's 50%. Layden Blocker was 3 of 5. That's 60%. And then you had a couple of guys, Devo Davis, Chandler Lawson, each 50%. So you had a few misses here or there. Caleb Battle was 8 of 11, though. Ellis was 3 of 4. And you had enough. And that's all that really matters, is the fact that you had enough to win the game. Because at the end of the day, It's not going to be a perfect performance every single night. There is not going to be any single one performance that will be a perfect performance from a single team. So obviously, this was not a perfect performance in the Arkansas Razorbacks, but it was a very good performance, and it was a good enough performance to get the win against a very good Duke Blue Devil team. Like, look, one of the biggest issues with Arkansas this season so far has been interior play, post defense. And Duke has interior post players. Kyle Filipowski, he's probably going to be a lottery pick next year. I was surprised he came back for his sophomore year in college basketball. Same thing with Mark Mitchell, really good interior player. Look, Filipowski put up 26 points. I get it. The points were there. He scored 26 points on 20 field goal attempts. Let that sink in. An NBA lottery draft pick for a blue blood program scored 26 points on 20 field goal attempts. Now, I like to think I know basketball, and I'm no Eric Musselman, but if I'm sitting here thinking my game plan is to minimize the impact of some players, especially someone like a Kyle Filipowski, I'm happy with him scoring 26 points if it's on that many shots. That's an inefficient performance. And you look at the rest of the box score too. You had Jeremy Roach with 22 points. He was much more efficient. He only took 13 shots. He was 7-9 from the free throw line. That's fine. But outside of Roach and Filipowski, not a single Duke Blue Devil was in double figures. Not a single one. Mark Mitchell was 2 of 8 from the field with 6 points. You look at Jared McCain, 5 points, 1 of 7 from the field. Caleb Foster, 0 of 5 from the field. Arkansas held Duke to 35.8% from the field, 27% from the three-point line. So any concerns that fans had from Arkansas as far as, and my co-host Riley McFerrin is here. He is here. He is in the flesh after the rushing the court and the big victory. Riley, I was just in the middle of talking about Arkansas's defense showing up, playing well. I was just saying, Arkansas held Duke to 36% from the field, 27% from the three-point line. Like, that was a big concern coming in this game was Arkansas's defense. But tonight, Arkansas was completely bought in at every single position. They were denying passing lanes. They were playing really good interior post defense. What did it look like live? What was the reaction watching live? What was the defense like?
Man, the defense, just everything in general, not just the defense, but the defense in particular was just high energy. I mean, the entire arena was just high energy. It was just oozing the energy like from everywhere, including defense. I mean, Chandler Lawson, you look at him, you have to guard a guy in Kyle Filipowski who is going to be a top, high-end first-round pick after the season. He's really, really good, and he's going to score a lot of points against a lot of teams, and he did that tonight. But I still feel like Chandler Lawson did a pretty good job, especially in the first half, the Hogs in general. Filipowski didn't have a great first half. Some of that was due to foul trouble. But just looking at Lawson, he had blocks, rebounds. I mean, that is elite stuff from him. And just as a whole, you could tell, from the arena that Arkansas wanted this win. It needed it. And it did need it after its performance in the battle for Atlantis last week. So, yeah, I mean, looking at this defensive performance against a really good Duke team, a lot of things to like going forward.
Well, and you mentioned Filipowski put up his points, and right before you hopped on, I was even talking about, like, look, he put up 26 points, but he shot 20 field goals. If you're
Eric Musselman, it was not an easy 26 points.
Yeah, you're scheming against an NBA lottery pick. You allow 26 points on 20 shots from an NBA lottery pick. I think you take that because 20 shots, that's a lot of shots you're taking away from other teammates that are capable, especially on a number 7 ranked team in college basketball. You have other talented guys around you. You take 20 shots, you only score 26 points. I think you take that if you're Eric Musselman.
You take it every day. And, I haven't really been able to give my full game thoughts just because I joined late. But, man, on the way up here to Fayetteville, You could feel the energy. I mean, it was palpable walking into the stadium. You could feel it. And then, man, from tip to the end of that game, it was amazing. And I mean, it makes sense, right? It was the largest crowd ever for an Arkansas basketball game. I don't know if you've already said that, but 20,344 Arkansas fans showed up. The vibes are immaculate in Fayetteville right now. Arkansas looked amazing. I mean, this is the kind of win that you can build on, especially after, like I said, a struggle in the Battle for Atlantis, losing that game to UNCG. The basketball team needed some positive vibes. They got it tonight in a big way.
Well, and I touched on this a little bit, but I want to get your opinion on this too. Arkansas struggled in the Battle for Atlantis. They went 1-2. They beat Stanford. They lost big to North Carolina and Memphis. And in their final game against North Carolina, they lose Tremont Mark. So they had no Tremont Mark, who is the Arkansas leading scorer. And honestly, one of the better defenders, too. So you come into Bud Walton Arena against the number 7 team in the country without your leading scorer, without a defensive leader, who has obviously he's a transfer. He has winning experience coming from a Houston program who has done really well in the postseason. What does it say about this Arkansas team to be able to adjust to that, to adapt to not having Tremont Mark and win such a game like tonight?
Yeah, I mean, coming into this game, you didn't really think Mark would play, and he ended up not playing. And so it was kind of a thing to watch, right? How would Arkansas handle not having that defender, that scoring presence in Tremont Mark? And they handled it gracefully. Trevin Brazil looked like the kind of guy we all thought he would after, I think he only had 0 points against North Carolina. Not a great performance there. Came right back and scored 19 against a really good Duke team. Caleb Battle, I mean, we all knew he could score, and he did that again tonight with a team leading 21 points. Can get to the free throw line like the best in the business. And then, you just got little performances from everybody else. Layden Blocker, a dude who has slowly progressed throughout the season, had a big time performance today. Still not perfect, a little rough around the edges, but the dude just hustles, and his point total reflects that. He's a hustler. He gets his points off of hustle plays. And then, like I said, just other guys making plays. Jeremiah Davenport hitting some clutch threes. He hasn't really been consistent there. He made some today. And just as a whole, this team, what I think it means is that, even whenever you lose one guy, even if he is a key guy, this team is so deep that, it really doesn't matter. As long as everybody's locked in and focused, they can beat anybody on any given night.
And I think, from a standpoint of look, obviously everybody knows Tremont Mark was out, and the 2 guys that really carried this team tonight were Trevin Brazil and Caleb Battle. They combined for 40 points. Caleb Battle had 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. Kind of did it all for the team. But, this victory would not have happened if it weren't for the role player guys. You already mentioned Layden Blocker. L. Ellis played a really good game. But, playing a Duke team with such a strong front court, I think Arkansas's front court kind of – I mean, Trevin Brazil obviously included in that, but the guys like Mekhi Mitchell, like Chandler Lawson, I think those guys in the front court really added a lot to Arkansas's ability to win this game, just based on the fact that they played really good defense. Mekhi Mitchell was 3 of 3 from the field. He scored. He was in foul trouble. He didn't play a ton, but Mekhi Mitchell had the highest plus minus yet again, plus 12 in just 10 minutes of action. Chandler Lawson filled the stat sheet, like you already said. I mean, he had 7 points. He had 8 rebounds, an assist. He added 6 blocks. Like, honestly, we're talking about Chandler Lawson pushing a triple-double. What does it say about this team's depth to have Chandler Lawson and Mekhi Mitchell put up those type of numbers and contribute at this level for this win?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the offseason, whenever the Hawks picked up Chandler Lawson, it wasn't really seen as, like a high-level elite pickup. It was seen as the right pickup, a guy that can come in, play his role as a lengthy forward. And, I don't think, people thought he would be, defending the opposing team's 5 all the time. But, I mean, he's got a pretty good track record at this point. He did really well against Zach Edey, did well against Kyle Filipowski. Those 2 dudes are, arguably the top two centers in college basketball right now. And he's only 6'8", and he's defending those guys pretty well. So, yeah, I mean, having him defend at that level in the post completely changes this team. And, we're saying all of this, again, it was without Tremont Mark. It was without Jalen Graham, who did see a small appearance in this game. I think maybe he got into some early foul trouble. There really wasn't a good point for him to come back into the game. I mean, this Arkansas team played really, really well at home, but you can only imagine what it would look like if you added Mark back, or when you add Mark back, when you add Graham back. This team at full strength, I've said it multiple times, probably in every show that they've won, this team is going to be really hard to beat later in the season.
Absolutely. No, this is a team as critical as I've been, and I will acknowledge I have been very critical of this team early on. And I felt like
I was going to bring that up. You've kind of been a hater for the past few days, a little bit.
I haven't tried to be a hater. I've been trying to bring legitimate criticism to this team because I feel like the expectations have been very high. The expectations have been this is the Final Four team, and I guess. And outside of just like fans expecting that, I guess my whole thought process was, okay, Eric Musselman can always get a team assembled by the end of the year. But specifically last year? What was the issue last year? Okay, they had a lot of youth, they didn't have shooters. So over the offseason, he added a ton of experience and he added a lot of shooters. So he fixed the two main issues. So in my mind, I guess I expected adding so much experience, adding the shooters, so you increase floor space into the offense shouldn't be as stagnant, and then you shouldn't have as many young mistakes and all that sort of stuff. I didn't expect the early season lull. I didn't expect the loss to UNCG. I didn't expect the bad performances against Memphis and UNC. And not to say that they still shouldn't have lost to Memphis and UNC. They're good teams. But that's a long-winded answer to say, look, this team has potential. I'm still in wait-and-see mode. I want to see them be able to do this on a consistent basis. This game is the best they have looked all season, except for the Purdue exhibition. But this is the best they have looked in a game that is counted in the stat sheet, in the record books. Can they do that again? Hopefully. For Arkansas fans' sake. I think they can. You still got to work Tremont Mark back, and you still got to get some. You still got to get some things a little fine tuned. But they looked really good tonight. They just really did look really good tonight.
They looked great, and I mean, you have a stretch of games coming up. Next, you play Furman, who is a pretty solid program that isn't amazing every year, but sometimes they kind of sneak up on teams and have an upset or two. And then I think after that you have OU, and then you have a stretch of conference games leading into the SEC. It's a perfect time to like you said, work Mark back into the rotation, get him healthy, kind of get everybody situated, and then explode. Like previous Musselman teams have done in conference play. I mean, look, Jackson. One thing I kind of want to bring up, I forgot to mention it, speaking to the atmosphere here in Bud Walton, we don't have the highlights here because my internet connection was very poor, so I wasn't able to upload them. But one play in particular, it made my ears ring from the reaction of the fans after. I believe it was Trevor Brazile. He blocked a shot. He blocked Mark Mitchell's shot, and then Layden Blocker somehow got the ball, carried it down the court, and scored a layup. And, whew, buddy, I mean, it was loud in Bud Walton Arena. Probably it could have been the loudest it's ever been with the biggest crowd that's ever been in here. Just kind of speaks to Arkansas fans in general. They need some wins after this football season. This week has been, or really the last 48 hours have been pretty electric. I think everybody can guess why. Even in the middle of the game, students, fans just in general were chanting Bobby for Bobby Petrino. As we all know, he was hired to be Arkansas's offensive coordinator earlier today. So, yeah, just an electric atmosphere. Arkansas looked really, really good. They've got a stretch coming up, where they can continue working on some things that they need to work on ahead of SEC play.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Plenty of stuff to work on. It was great to hear the crowd. I mean, obviously, I'm remote watching on the TV, so I didn't get to hear it as loud as you did, but it was very loud on TV as well. Uh, I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to Jeremiah Davenport. Got the start tonight. Hit a couple of really big 3-pointers early on to really set the tone. Helped get the crowd really into the game. Thought that was crucial. On top of that, just pointing out some stats from tonight that I feel like are important that have been missing this season. Arkansas has struggled so far this season on hitting layups. They were 11 of 19 on layups and 2 of 2 on dunks tonight. Much better than they have been in the past. They scored in transition, 11 fast break points. They still gave up a lot in transition to Duke. Duke scored 24 points in transition, but again, all the other defensive performances that we've already talked about, how good Arkansas was in half court defense. And I even wrote about in my article tonight on analyze like my shot quality stats article. Arkansas is really good in half court defense right now. Even though sometimes they give up the baseline, even though sometimes they can get out of position. Right now, Arkansas is a top 30 defensive team in half court defense as far as allowing points per possession. So they gave up points in transition tonight, but every time that Duke tried to set up a half-court offense, it seemed like Arkansas had an answer.
Yeah, and I mean the poor transition defense kind of surprises me whenever you've got a guy like Devo, Tremont Mark. I know those guys didn't play a lot today, but Devo had some foul trouble. Caleb Battle Ellis. Those are all quick guards that can, should be able to get up the floor pretty quickly. So kind of a weird issue that I didn't necessarily expect Arkansas to have, but it's one of those things that can be fixed, especially, whenever you're playing for Eric Musselman, who is a defensive-minded head coach. Jackson, we've kind of been, pumping up Arkansas so far, deservedly so, but, something I kind of wanted to talk about, it's something that, Arkansas fans seems like every game in the situation complain about is Musselman's tendency to play a little bit of stall ball at the end of the game. It wasn't maybe super prevalent. Some of it was just that they could not get out of those full court presses. They couldn't break them. What are your thoughts on that? What does Arkansas maybe need to change to be able to close games in a more efficient manner?
So I'll start this answer off by saying, or I guess posing a question to our viewers. We have a ton of viewers right now, so thank you for all of you tuning in. Give me your thoughts in the comments on the stall ball offense, whether you think Arkansas should or should not continue doing the whole stall ball thing down the stretch. Personally, I'll give my opinion on it now. I like it. I think, as far as you're looking at the analytics, you're looking at the data, all that sort of stuff, it makes sense. You're up X amount of points. There's no reason to go down and try to rush a shot. I mean, I think you should still run your offense. I think you should still look for a good shot, but I don't think it should be I'm going to push the ball down the court and try to get as quick a shot as possible, or if I have a wide open jumper with 5 seconds into the shot clock, then I'm gonna take it. On the other hand, tonight, I don't even think it was a stall ball issue. Tonight, I think it was just an issue of, like you mentioned, just trying to break the press. And Musselman even mentioned it in his post-game interview, like right on the court with ESPN right after the game ended. I think, he acknowledges the fact that the players weren't ready to break the press, that they need to work on that a lot. And that's going to get fixed. But as far as stall ball itself goes, I'm a fan of it. I think it works. Now it depends on the timing of it. I don't agree with running a stall ball if there's like 5 minutes left, 4 minutes left, whatever it is. But if you're winning basketball games, you're starting the stall ball offense with 2, 3, however many minutes, and you're still winning them. It might be frustrating to watch for a little bit, but at the end of the day, what matters is you have a W in the column on the record books,
I completely agree. I kind of want to run through some of the comments that people have left. after you asked him to. Walt Coact says full court transcript. I'm assuming he means full court press was a problem, but a lot of that is fixed with Devo and or T-Mark on the floor. That's actually a great point. Without T-Mark, experienced player, can handle the ball. We saw that against North Carolina. He wasn't on the court. I do agree. If he's in the game, it probably is a lot easier for Arkansas to break the full court press. What are your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. And, on top of having T-Mark on the floor and Devo on the floor, I also think it's just a matter of having the other guys as well, whoever it is. I mean, Layden Blocker, Caleb Battle, L. Ellis, whoever it is who's going to help bring the ball to the floor, they really need to make a concerted effort to come to the ball whenever someone passes it to them. Because the thing is, breaking a press, if you're breaking a press against a good team, a team who's really disciplined in their full court press, they're gonna force really long passes. Okay, and that's what Duke was doing because they were running a solid press tonight. They were forcing long passes to break the press. Best way to break a press is by passing anyway. But in order to do that, if you're forced to make those long passes, if you're receiving it, you really have to step towards the ball. You have to come towards the ball, be an active receiver of the pass. Because if you just sit there and wait for it, someone's going to jump in the passing lane all the time. It's just going to happen. They're talking about it on the broadcast the whole time. It was multiple players. It was Layden Blocker, it was L. Ellis, it was Trevin Brazil at times. Multiple people were just waiting on passes to come breaking the press, and that is not how you break a press. It's just not. Passing, yes, that's exactly how you want to break the press, but got to be active in receiving the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said. Again, we have another comment here from That's a Good Fish. Must constantly takes the air out of the ball, which means you have to play perfect. And when you don't, teams come back like they do tonight. It's not about rushing shots. It's about staying aggressive. I think there's a point to be made both ways. I think whenever you're up a lot of points, like Arkansas was, they're up double digits. Wasting clock. Really milking every possession is a good thing. And I mean, Arkansas has proved that it works. Eric Musselman has proved that it works. They won tonight, did they not? So obviously it works. But I think there is something to staying aggressive as a mindset. That's important to close out games. Arkansas was fortunate tonight. It worked out in their favor, but maybe in a road environment where the crowd is not on your side, the calls are not falling your way, the result can be flipped. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how that, is attacked going forward. But knowing Muss, he's going to keep going the stall ball route because so far it's worked.
Look, and I don't disagree that, look, if you take the air out of the ball, you try to slow the game down, you try to play stall ball, however you want to phrase it, yeah, you have to play pretty perfect. And playing perfect essentially means at that point not turning the ball over and hitting your free throws. And the biggest issue with Arkansas tonight was they were turning the ball over and they struggled hitting their free throws late. And that's why it ended up being a close game. But I don't think that's anything that's like Eric Musselman's fault per se. I mean, he could prepare his guys better moving forward for breaking a press so they don't turn the ball over. But also on top of that, free throws, it was kind of uncharacteristic for Arkansas to shoot so poor from the free throw line tonight because they've been a really strong free throw shooting team this year. But if you're taking the air out of the ball and you're trying to run that stall ball scheme, the whole point is to force teams to foul you or for you to get an open look deep into the shot clock. And Arkansas went to the free throw line a ton to end the game. They just weren't hitting them. And so I don't think that's necessarily a Musselman issue. I think that's just guys got to hit their free throws.
Yeah, I agree. I think free throws have been something that I've kind of watched up to this point. They've had some games where they were really good, had some that weren't great. This game, sorry about the trash can moving in the background. This game was pretty good up to like you said, up to the end. Some players that you wouldn't expect to miss some free throws from Jared Stripe missed them. You could tell in the crowd, fans started getting a little antsy, especially after all the students lined up to storm the court. It would have been pretty embarrassing if they weren't able to storm the court at the very end, but it all worked out. A quick little update, by the way. Mason Choate our publisher, will not be able to join us tonight. I don't know if anyone was looking forward to that. I imagine you probably weren't.
I mean, that guy
So,
sucks.
right. Well, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. Anytime he joins, it kind of brings the mood down anyway. So, I doubt anybody would want to listen to him. He's currently handling the Muscleman press conference, which is still going on. Pretty interesting. Usually whenever I would kind of think if a Muscleman press conference is going on this long, it's probably bad. He probably has a lot of bad things to say, but maybe I've got that flipped backwards.
Maybe
Really big win. He probably has a lot to say.
There were a lot of national media in today, so I wonder if they're present and asking questions too. Because I know Aaron Torres from Fox Sports it was present. Matt Norlander from CBS Sports was there. Obviously, Jay Billis was on the call tonight. I don't think he would be in the presser, but you had plenty of national media there tonight. Maybe they're in the presser. Maybe that's the reason for it to go over. And honestly, Musselman's all about the publicity. Maybe a big win over number 7 Duke was reason for him to be a little more chatty too.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of national media, I mean, this game was on primetime. ESPN had a bunch of eyes watching. This is one of those, resume building wins for the NCAA tournament. But now that, the Razorbacks have played this game, I think going into the year, everybody looked at the schedule and thought, okay, this Duke game is kind of a checkpoint game. Like after this game, we can kind of evaluate how the team has played. We'll know more about the team, what their limit is, what their potential is for the postseason. Jackson, maybe to kind of start to close things out. After this game, just as a whole, up to this point, what are your general thoughts about this Arkansas team? What do they need to maybe fix going forward? What are some things that they've done really well? And then, just in terms of the potential of this team compared to what you thought in the preseason, how has that changed, after this Duke game?
This is a loaded question because
this is a loaded question.
I had very high expectations in preseason, and maybe that's why I ended up being so critical and why people perceived me as being so negative so far this season. Because I genuinely thought that this roster coming into the season was a Final Four roster. And I've gone over it in this very episode. I go over it pretty much every time we talk post game or anytime on my podcast with Mason. Look, you add shooting and you add experience. You add a bunch of veteran guys. You have graduate seniors, graduate transfers, whatever you want to call them. You have 5 returning players from last year's roster. You add 2 top 30 freshmen coming into this season. There were all the reasons, all the signs pointing to not having a slump to begin this year, and yet here we are with Arkansas, coming into this game being 4-3, with a loss to UNC Greensboro at home. So Arkansas loses to UNC Greensboro at home, goes to the Bahamas, goes 1-2, and then comes back home to play the number 7 team in the country and had a lead by double digits with 3 minutes left and ends up winning. So, it's really hard to gauge expectations as far as look, I started the season expecting a Final Four team. Before tonight, they looked like a first to second round team. And then they show up tonight and they look like a Final Four team because they just beat the number 7 team. And honestly, it was close in the first half, but for most of the second half, it wasn't close. They led by double digits for most of the second half. The only reason it got close at the end was because the game slowed down and Arkansas turned it over when they tried to slow it down. So it's tough to judge my expectations. If I'm playing the game here and I'm just going to say I'll cut it in half. They've looked like a first to second round team and they look like a Final Four team. I guess I'll say it's a Sweet 16 team right now, with the ability to move up or move down. It really just depends. And then and that's even taking into account Tremont Mark was not healthy. He did not even play tonight. So you have to think about adding him back into the fold, adding him back into the mix and all that sort of stuff. So is this team done growing? Absolutely not. Is this team guaranteed to be a Final Four team? Absolutely not. Will they be an NCAA tournament team? Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. This team is definitely a tournament team. You know, we saw that tonight. You don't play the way you do against this Duke team and not make the NCAA tournament at the end of the year. Um, you know, Jackson, we're kind of getting to the end here. I don't know if you know how much you touched on before I got here. If you have any closing thoughts about anything interesting that we should talk about, we can go ahead and get to that. But besides that, I mean, Arkansas is really good. This is a big win. Vibes are great in Fayetteville right now. Should be an interesting week the rest of the way. And so, I'll kind of leave it up to you here.
No, unless anybody has any last minute Q&As or questions for us to answer, I really don't have anything else to add. Like, look, Arkansas played great tonight. They beat the number 7 team in the country. Likely a shot to move back into the top 25 after a win tonight, especially if other teams start dropping in the top 25, especially around that 20 to 25 range. So who knows there. I've talked about, like, look, I've done bracketology for the past 4 years, been pretty accurate with my bracketology as well. That's part of the reason for me being so critical was the fact that UNCG was a terrible loss. You had to make up for that before you got to the conference season. And I think they did that tonight. I mean, it doesn't completely eliminate the loss because it'll still probably be a quad 3 home loss, which sucks for them. But, it is what it is. That's a good fish just pointed out. Let's see. I think the key will be how can the two best offensive players in Mark and Battle coexist and be effective because they both need the ball in their hands. I completely agree. And it's difficult because when Mark was healthy, like up until this game, really, Mark and Battle have both been healthy. Arkansas ran a ton of isolation sets. And it was a ton of two-man game between Mark and Mekhi Mitchell. And then you had a ton of two-man game with Caleb Battle and Mekhi Mitchell. So as far as coexisting, I don't even know how that's going to work because those are two guys who thrive in that isolation type basketball. They've done so far this season. They've proven it. They score at a high level in isolation basketball. Mark was removed from the lineup tonight because of injury. Obviously, he was not healthy, could not play. And I touched on it at the very beginning of this stream. Arkansas had its highest assist rate of the season. And I'm not saying that's because Mark didn't play. I think that was a concerted effort because Eric Musselman mentioned it multiple times in the press conferences at the Bahamas and after the Bahamas of having such a low assist rate. That they needed to work on moving the basketball more, passing the basketball more, all that sort of stuff. So I think with Eric Musselman having that concerted effort, wanting to move the ball more, wanting to pass the ball more, wanting to assist more, having a higher assist rate in particular, that he's mentioned that specifically. I think that he will be able to press the buttons to make sure that Mark and Battle both can still score with the ball in their hands like they have been doing, and also be able to play in a system where they can contribute and facilitate and move the ball as well. I think Musselman is really good at being able to get guys to buy into a system, whether they're comfortable or not. Audici Tony, I don't think was fully comfortable in his role when he played here. I don't think Stanley Amude was fully comfortable in his role because those guys came from completely different systems, from playing completely different roles, and they were like really, really highly sought after in the transfer portal. But they bought in, and Arkansas made deep runs in the tournament. Arkansas was very successful because they bought in. And part of the reason they bought in was because of Eric Musselman. I think Eric Musselman can get Battle and Mark both to buy into playing more facilitating roles rather than ISO roles, since both of them want to do that. And I think it'll be better for the team.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's a fantastic question. I mean, Battle, he had 21, but he also shot the ball 13 times, right? And usually whenever one of these guys between Battle and Mark go off, the other one doesn't. They have a good game, maybe not a great game. So that's definitely an interesting dynamic to pay attention to going forward. Jackson, with that, I am going to have to wrap things up. I need to get out of here. I do want to say to everybody watching, thank you for watching. We had, I think, a record number of people watching tonight, which isn't surprising. Thank you. Keep tuning in after every basketball game this season. Jackson and I, and Mason, whenever he feels like it, will hop on. Just very quickly, I believe this promo ends tonight. But if you aren't already subscribed to Arkansas Rivals, HawgBeat.com, you can go on there right now. You can get 50% off an annual subscription to HawgBeat. You can follow the transfer portal. Arkansas basketball, we just had an amazing win tonight, and keep up with the Trough, which is our premium message board. To do that, just use promo code Petrino. That's Petrino, all caps, Petrino at checkout. You'll get 50% off an annual subscription. As long as you're a new user, that's very important. I highly recommend using that. With that, Jackson, I think I'm ready to get out of here.
You go ahead and get out of here. Looks like I had a couple more questions I'm going to answer. I'll stay on solo here for a minute to answer some questions, and then I'll hop off after that. But let's see. That's a good fish has another question. Is it a coincidence the ball movement was better with the ball in Ellis battle blockers' hands than Devo? Not saying Devo doesn't have a role, but what are your thoughts? That's a tough question. Mainly because Devo's been a huge part of this team for so long, and Devo's kind of had multiple roles too. He's been a sixth man kind of guy his freshman year / seventh man his freshman year. He's been a point guard, like a true point guard his sophomore year. He's been a slashing wing, all that sort of stuff. The beginning of this year, I guess people expected him to be more facilitating, with averaging 5 points, 5 assists, 5 rebounds, whatever. I think at this point, it might be a little bit of a coincidence that the ball looked like it moved better in those guys' hands than Devo's. It'll require a little bit more film study, and I'll be doing my, I do my film studies after every game, so I'll have that posted in the next day or two, and I'll be able to give you a better answer for that. But for right now, I'm gonna I guess err on the side of caution and say coincidence, unless proven different by looking at film. Walt Koak said ball movement was a disaster against full court press without Devo. I agree, and I touched on that a little bit earlier too. I think a lot of that was like an issue with not only passing, but I feel like it was an issue with guys just not coming to the ball. You really you're breaking a press, and this is exactly what I said earlier. A good defensive team, when they put a full court press on, they're going to force you to make really long passes. And Duke was forcing Arkansas to make really long passes. And when you make those passes to break the press, because the best way to break a press is by passing the basketball, the receiver has to come to it. And the Arkansas, the guards were more passive receivers on breaking the press on those passes. So ball movement was an issue, but also I think receiving passes was an issue on breaking the press. Ball movement has been the only player getting ball movement before tonight. Not sure what that means, Walt Koak, but I will say, if what you're trying to say is that ball movement has been an issue before tonight, I completely agree, because I've talked about that every post game, that the ball movement has been pretty atrocious before tonight. I was really impressed with ball movement being better tonight. I thought there was a lot more movement, a lot more ball screens. Obviously, the assist rate was a lot higher. 17 assists tonight, or maybe even more than that. Let's look at this. How many assists were there tonight? Arkansas had 17 assists tonight on 26 made baskets. That was much better. Devo has been the only player getting ball movement before tonight. I don't disagree with that, because Devo's just full of energy. And what has been lacking on the offense before tonight was energy. There was not a lot of movement. There's a lot of weak screens and a lot of going to your spot and standing around. I thought that changed a lot tonight. Hopefully that for Arkansas's sake, that changes a lot moving forward as well, because the offense just works a lot better when there's more movement, because that makes the defense actually have to guard you more, gets the defense out of position more, and makes cutters and jump shooters a lot more open. Make your free throws. Yes. Rage. Absolutely. Got to make free throws. Don't know what happened tonight, but Arkansas was really struggling for the free throw line, 19 of 30, especially down the stretch. It was an issue more down the stretch than the rest of the game. But yeah, it is what it is. Thankfully, Arkansas ended up with a win, even though they did struggle from the free throw line. But with that, stayed on an extra few minutes here for y'all. Don't know if y'all have any more questions, but probably about to end the stream here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I'm gonna have a film breakdown coming soon. Gonna have a bunch more basketball content. Glad Arkansas got the win for fans' sake. Thankful for all of y'all tuning in, all that sort of stuff. Really enjoy being able to chat with y'all, do this post game show, live reaction. Really enjoy it. So thank you so much. I'm Jackson Collier, JC Hoops, and I'll talk to y'all later.